our live virtual diabetes forum. We remain hopeful for the day that we can have these meetings in person. My name is Parminder Singh. I'm a registered nurse, certified diabetes educator. Assisting me today behind the scenes is my colleague, Jody Long, who is also one of our diabetes educators and dietitians, and she today will be our production manager. Today we have a very special program. We have persons with diabetes telling us about their life with diabetes, their self-management efforts, and their support resources. I will be introducing each one of these individuals before we share their video. We do welcome your questions during the event, and please click on the question mark bubble in the upper right-hand corner to submit any questions you may have. And now it's my pleasure and honour to introduce the first of our storytellers, Matthew Gomez, a high school student living with type 1 diabetes.
Hi, my name is Matthew Gomez. I'm a 12th grader at Mountain View High School. I'm a varsity football player for 3 years now, and I have type 1 diabetes. I got diagnosed when I was in 4th grade. I was 9 years old. Pretty scary experience for me, but as you can see, I'm still going strong now, so I made it through it. That's about it.
So when you were diagnosed, how were you diagnosed? Like, what happened?
My sister got diagnosed 3 or 4 years before me. So my parents kind of knew the signs of diabetes, and I think we were coming back home from visiting family, and I was like using the restroom a lot. I was like kind of sickish a little bit. I was always thirsty. So then I had to check my blood, which took me a really long time because I was scared. And it was high, like really high. I think it was like 350 or something, which is not when you don't have diabetes, that's really bad. So then I went to the hospital and I got all checked out and stuff, and then I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
Tell us about what you are doing for managing your diabetes.
I wear my CGM, the new G6. It helps a lot. When I was younger, I just had to check my blood 3 to 5 times a day, pretty much before you eat or play sports, just to make sure it was good and take insulin to correct for what your blood sugar is or what you were eating. But now I use CGM. It connects right to my phone. So pretty much when I wake up in the morning to when I go to bed, I can just check whenever. And of course, obviously before I eat and before I play sports, I check it.
And how is it with a continuous glucose monitor versus checking your blood sugar? Like, how do you like that? Is it easier or is it?
Oh, it's 100% easier. When I had to check my blood, it's always like annoying. It felt like a task that I had to do, and I'd forget or just not feel like doing it, or it'd be like somewhere else. Like even if it was like downstairs and I just was too lazy to go grab it, or I just didn't want to pull it out of my backpack and do it. I just wanted to go eat food. But with the CGM, I always have my phone on me, like most people do nowadays. So it's really simple, especially since like I have it so I can just swipe over my phone. I don't even have to unlock it, and it'll just say it like where it's going. It'll show a little bit of the trend or graph, and it'll show me my number.
So it gives you a little more freedom.
Yeah, it gives you a lot more freedom. It takes like the pricks off your finger too, which I thought was kind of just a little bit of a plus, since my fingers are like really calloused over from doing that. And it just felt like I wasn't like, it made me feel like less I had a disease and more I was just like, normal-ish more. So yeah, it was.
And then what do you do for managing your diabetes? What types of things do you do for, like, other than testing, now that you have a CGM, what do you do? Like, what is your medication and what type of food and exercise do you do?
Well, I use pens. Well, I've kind of like gone off and forth. So like when I first got diagnosed, I used Humalog and like Levemir, I think it was. Those were the first ones I started, and I used that for like 3 or 4 years. And then I got into the T-Slim pump, which was like nice, but it didn't really work really well for me. I didn't like correct enough, or it just didn't work. It didn't work well with like how much I was eating or how much I was exercising. Plus I would have practice every day, so I would have to take it off. And it was kind of annoying having that like cord attached to me. So then I went back to pens, and now I use Fiasp and Tresiba, and I like it. Fiasp is like a newer version of insulin. It's like supposed to be faster, and it works really well for me, so I like using that. And Tresiba is nice because it's a 24-hour, so I don't have to take it twice a day. So I can just take it at night, and then the next night before I go to bed, I can just take it again. But you know, I'm a football player. I also play soccer, so I'm pretty active. I have practice pretty much every day a week. It's about 2.5 to 3 hours. So like managing my blood before practice is a big thing because it'll help me perform better, and I won't like get dehydrated or feel sluggish or anything, or you know, go low, which is kind of a big problem. So yeah, other than that, it's not hard. It's kind of fun, I would say. Kind of gives me an excuse sometimes to get out of practice if I say I'm low, but yeah.
And what about your food? What types of food? Do you have to stay away from any food, or can you do kind of eat whatever you want if you manage it well?
Well, I know a lot of people think that like people who have diabetes have to stay away from like sugar and stuff, but that's not really the case. You can pretty much eat, like technically you can pretty much eat anything you want, but it's more like stuff that are like super sugar. So like drinks, right? Like when I was growing up, all the doctors and everybody, they'll tell you don't drink drinks that with like a lot of sugar. Right, so like regular soda or like, you know, just juice. So a lot of times you stay away from that. Candy, right? I mean, now that I'm older, like I can, you know, I still drink diet stuff, but I don't really drink like sugary drinks anymore because I kind of just got used to it. But like candy, I mean, everybody loves candy, so everybody kind of eats candy still. So I'll give them, so I do eat candy a lot, but I mean, there's nothing really wrong with that.
So you pretty much are a normal teenager.
Yeah, I'm 17, so.
You could be a normal teenager with type 1 diabetes.
Yep.
Okay, so tell us about if you've had diabetes education and what you learned from this experience.
Other than like going to see my doctor, when I was younger, all I did was go see my doctor pretty much. There wasn't like a whole lot of diabetes like training. My dad's a diabetic and so is my sister, so it's not like it was a new concept. So we kind of pretty much knew like what to do, and it wasn't like different. I did go to like pump training when I first got my pump, so that was it. I also went to diabetes camp for 4 or 5 years as a kid, like a person at the camp, and then did 2 years as a counselor at the camp. So that was kind of fun. It like helped me, it like showed me the 100% correct way to like do my blood sugar, and like still have fun. So like and meet like other diabetics. But other than that, I didn't really do much other than training or.
Where was the type 1 diabetes camp?
Oh, it was in Fredericksburg, Virginia, like downtown Fredericksburg, and it was Mary Washington Hospital, I think is the one who did it.
Okay, tell us about your support system for diabetes, like your healthcare providers, family and friends, and any support that you've had over the years.
Well, healthcare doesn't really support you that much as a diabetic. I mean, I feel like a lot of diabetics would know that. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but like getting stuff approved, even if you want it. But my family is big support for me, I would say, the biggest. I mean, as I said earlier, my dad and sister both have it, so like we like talk about it easier. It's easier to manage our diabetes because we all have it. So like when I was growing up, it wasn't like I felt alone, like being the only one, because I have diabetics. I have like the only one in the family, so that was nice. And then a lot of my friends were pretty supportive of it. Like when I was younger, it was a little weird. Like they would be like, when I randomly got diagnosed in the middle of 4th grade, especially as like a young kid, everybody was like kind of like, oh my God, you have a disease. But I thought it was kind of cool because I used to tell everybody I had the disease to make me feel different. But now that I'm older, everybody just knows, and it's kind of nice because like I've grown up with the same kids, so like they know that I drink like G2 Gatorade or like diet soda if I have one, which is like, I wouldn't say it's like helpful, but like after time when you just like go sit down with friends and they're like, oh, what do you want? And they like say like Diet Coke instead of regular Coke. It's like a nice little, you know, makes you feel more welcomed, I guess. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, and lastly, are there any suggestions you can offer to others about diabetes? Maybe other teenagers?
The biggest thing I'd say for like teens is like don't let diabetes like limit you from like going out and having fun. Like I still have fun with my friends. I still play football. I still play soccer. Like I still do all that. Like just because I have diabetes doesn't mean it's gonna make me stop playing it. I just have to be a little bit more diligent. And I think, you know, if you do right, like you can still be good at sports. You can still, you know, weight train. You can do all this other stuff that you want to do. And, you know, even though you have diabetes, like everybody thinks, like when I was younger, it was really hard because everybody's like, it felt like a big time out of my day. I had to take every day to just like manage it. But like when I'm older, like you get used to it. So like when I go out, it's just, you know, oh, I check my blood, look at my phone, it's this, I take insulin. It's not hard. It's not easy. Plus like I'm 17, so I drive. So a lot of times I can just keep it in my car. So like I go somewhere, I can do it before I get out even in my car. No one has to see me. Like, cause I know some people are like nervous or when people see them take shots, and like a lot of times if you hang out with like the same people or like people get to know you, like telling them about it or like explaining it to them will like make it a lot easier. And it'll like open you up a little bit more and they'll feel a lot more comfortable around you. Cause it feels like almost like a little secret or like inside about you, and it'll make you feel more welcome. So yeah, but then like management, biggest thing is just making sure you check your blood. Like I'm still a teenager, and even like sometimes I don't have my CCM or it falls off because of sports. Then like I'll forget to check it or something, right? It happens, right? I mean, all you have to do is just like let it happen as less frequently as possible. Like you just, you know, so other than that, thank you very much for listening to me talk about my diabetes. I know it might be a little boring, but good luck.
Thank you, Matthew. That was great. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I love your positive attitude and that you do not let diabetes hold you back from being a typical teenager. And I love that you participate in high school sports and share with others around you that you have diabetes. Matthew mentioned that he participated in Kids Camp. Just so you're aware, the Diabetes Management Program does hold an annual Kids Camp for type 1 diabetes, and you know, it's a fun interactive camp that we do hold annually. Please contact us if you would like to hear some more information about that. So our next storyteller is James Eubank, who is a college student at VCU, the Virginia Commonwealth University.
My name is James.
And James, where do you go to college? How old are you?
VCU, and I'm 18.
You go to VCU. What do you study?
Engineering.
Okay. And do you live at home or on campus?
Home.
Home. How long have you had diabetes?
11 years.
So how old were you when you were diagnosed?
7.
7? All right. And what kind of equipment do you use?
Dexcom and Omnipod.
Dexcom and Omnipod. All right. And has that changed in the last few years, or is it the same as?
The same.
Same. How many years have you been on Omnipod?
5, 6.
Okay. And so do you eat on campus or do you eat at home? Do you have a meal plan?
No, I eat at home.
Okay. How do you think that if someone were a college student and they were living on campus, how do you think their diabetes care might be different?
Well, they still have diabetes, so they still have to manage it.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't be that much different.
What about finding information about carbs on campus and that kind of thing?
Well, hopefully by the time you're in college, you know how to guess.
Guess? What about?
Or you can look it up.
Yeah.
You should have a phone.
And I think, and I think a lot of college campuses have those resources online too. Okay. How about, so you're not living on campus and you don't have a meal plan, so it sounds like your care has been pretty steady since high school. But how about as far as your diabetes care, like the responsibilities that you had since you turned 18? Tell me about that, if that's different.
Well, I have to plan the doctor's appointments by myself, or I have to do it. I have to be the one to do it.
Okay.
Not her.
And her is mom. I'm mom,
Yeah.
the one interviewing.
And I have to do my prescriptions. If there's a problem, they call me instead of her.
Okay, so that's different. So once you turn 18, kind of that transition of care, of handling your own prescriptions and going to doctor's appointments by yourself too. Okay, how about the College Diabetes Network? Do you think VCU has one of those? Do you know?
Not that I heard of.
Yeah, I think VCU, any college can have the College Diabetes Network.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, the meetings.
Is that like a thing?
It is. But VCU doesn't have an active chapter right now. So if it did, you could join that. You could also be the guy who starts it. So they just need somebody who's gonna start the chapter and kind of run it. So that's something for our college students. How have you run into anybody else with diabetes in school?
No.
What about if you were moving into a dorm, say you move into a dorm next year, or you move into an apartment next year, what are some important things that you would tell your roommates?
I have diabetes.
And what else would you tell them?
I'd maybe teach them how to use the glucagon.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Maybe keep the glucagon in a location where your roommates know where it is and they could use it. They know what to do in an emergency. What about, you're not 21 yet, but I know in college there's a lot of, there can be a lot of alcohol consumption or people hanging out together. So when you're 21, what are some things that you would tell your friends if you were having drinks with them?
Same thing.
Same thing. What about
Gotta be more careful.
Yeah. What about, would you ever have maybe a close friend follow you on Dexcom?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that might be good. So somebody else is kind of in the loop with you if you were to have a low. And really having a conversation about if you're going to be drinking alcohol, what you should, some precautions and things. So cross that bridge when we get there, and even have that conversation now is really important. So we'll do that. Anything else you want to share about, have you had any experiences yet in college with your diabetes that you want to tell us about?
No, it feels no different from high school.
It feels no different from high school? Okay, so your experience isn't that much different. Do you have any tips for somebody who might be struggling a little bit with their diabetes?
Just do what you're supposed to do.
So you have that kind of attitude, huh?
Yeah, you just check it and check your blood sugar, give your insulin, and then that's the end of it.
Yeah. Do you think
not do it just because you don't want to.
There you go. Do you think that's the engineer in you?
No.
No? Okay. All right.
It's just knowing how to manage my diabetes.
All right. Well, thanks, James, for sharing some of your tips with us and kind of how it is for you with your college life so far. Appreciate it.
Thanks, James, for sharing your story. I love how well you've managed to transition from high school to college. You seem to be doing great. You want to, his mom had mentioned the College Diabetes Network. That does have a wealth of resources. And, looking for support networks on your particular campus, some campuses have social media pages that, you can connect with others that have type 1 diabetes or type 2 diabetes. So that's something to look out for as well. So thank you, James. So our next storyteller is Connie James, who has a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. Connie recently attended our diabetes education classes.
Hi, my name is Connie James, and I was asked to give you a little bit of information about how I'm handling diabetes. I'm 68 years old, a mom of 4, a grandmother of 7, and 1 puppy dog, Finn. My life certainly has changed since the diagnosis, which occurred about 3 years ago. I can no longer even walk past the ice cream aisle anymore because Ben & Jerry's just wants to jump in my shopping cart. So once I realized I had to cut out all the good stuff, I think I'm doing a whole lot better. I was very lazy. I didn't exercise. I really had a job where I was substitute teaching, so I did sit a lot. So once I got the dog, Finley, everything has gotten so much better. You have to walk them 2 or 3 times a day, maybe 4. And we go to the dog park. He gives me a run for my money. And then I started taking an exercise class. One night yoga, one night just toning and fitness. That has been a lifesaver, I think. I am on, I guess it's a small dose of insulin at night, several different medications, and I really think it's all starting to come together. I feel so much better. One of the reasons I believe is because of the diabetes management class that was offered at Mary Washington Hospital. It really, really opened my eyes to how serious the disease was. It told me really good tips on how to manage. It was interesting hearing other people's stories and what they had been through and how they manage. So it really opened your eyes to, or opened my eyes to what I needed to do to get along with this disease, I guess. Like I said, I'm exercising a lot more, and oh my gosh, the eating has changed tremendously. Once I was diagnosed with the diabetes, I realized there had to be a lot of changes made. And I'm telling you now, the class was a huge help. I can't tell you enough how nice they were, how, oh my gosh, they answered every question, never made you feel like you were, not asking the right questions, I guess. So that was a tremendous help.
Thanks, Connie. I'm glad you were able to attend our diabetes education classes. Just to make you aware, we do have classes. We do have classes at 2 locations, the Cosner Corner location and also at Stafford Hospital. We review many topics like Connie mentioned, such as label reading, healthy eating, eating out wisely, a lot of great nutrition tips with diabetes, and also tips for managing your blood sugar and just being able to manage your diabetes well. So we hope to see you in some of our classes. Our next storyteller is Caitlin, a nurse practitioner living with type 1 diabetes. And I do apologize for the volume. It's getting us a little while to get the volume going.
Hi everybody, my name is Caitlin. I was asked to share with you my story of living with type 1 diabetes. I am a wife, a mother of 2, and in my free time, I like to read, I paint, I play video games, sometimes with my kids, mostly for me, and I work full-time as a nurse practitioner. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 15, and that was 19 years ago now. So in that time frame, I have used a number of different treatments. I started out with regular and NPH insulin that was injected twice a day and mixed in the same syringe. That was not fun, and I'm glad it only lasted for about 6 months. I was switched to an insulin pen in preparation for insulin pump therapy, which is what I've been using for the past 18 years. At some point along the line, I also started use of continuous glucose monitoring, CGM therapy. Before they really got to be as good as they are today, I was checking my blood sugar through finger sticks pretty much 10 to 14 times a day because I wanted to know what was going on all the time. The CGMs that are on the market now are way better than they were in the beginning and much more reliable, and I can trust the information that I'm getting to make decisions about my day. My diagnosis of diabetes in a offhanded way kind of led me into my career path of nursing. I actually wanted to join the Air Force, but that's one of the things that I've encountered that really is not possible with this diagnosis, but most other things I've tried or attempted, I've been able to do. I have participated in a couple of clinical trials, and through that process have learned more about my own body and what I can do to make my blood sugars spend more time in target with my blood sugars. One of the more recent trials I participated in was exercise and the effects that it has on type 1 diabetes. And I don't know about you, but that's probably the most challenging thing to manage is the effects of activity on blood sugar levels, because it's often irregular. One thing I learned over time is that consistency is really helpful, because then your body adjusts, your insulin levels adjust. You're doing a similar thing every day, and the blood sugars are less chaotic. I'm also a certified diabetes care and education specialist, formerly certified diabetes educator. They changed the name. And my journey with diabetes and career path into nursing led me to really understand that I love to teach, and nursing allows me to do that, and to help other people be successful with their diabetes management and get support that they need. So I really enjoy helping others, which is why I'm a nurse. If I had a suggestion for you, I would recommend to advocate for yourself. Whether that is finding support that you need, or getting access to technology, switching to a different medication, whatever it is to help you get what you need to be successful is golden. There's tons of different support options out there. People like myself, diabetes educators that can work with you on just problem solving. There are tons of apps or social media options with groups of people that live with type 1 diabetes as well, or type 2, that can help you just vent, even if that's what you need to kind of normalize what you're going through. The Mary Washington Diabetes Education Program also offers a support group that I found helpful, even just helping to give tips and tricks of things that have happened in my life that might be useful for somebody else, was rewarding to me. Well, that's all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed this video and found something useful out of it, and we'll talk again later.
Thanks, Caitlin. Thanks for sharing your story. I just want to let you know that our diabetes management program, we do help you in supporting your journey with diabetes. And Caitlin mentioned a little bit about technology, so and that she is on an insulin pump. So we do actually offer insulin pump training here, and also training if you're on a continuous glucose monitor or something that you might be interested in doing with your diabetes. Our next speaker is Cindy Charney, who has a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, and she also recently participated in our classes.
Hello, I'm Cindy Charney. I am 76 years old and beginning a new part of life in Virginia. I moved here a year ago from Pennsylvania, and I am just beginning a new career at my age. Learning how to take care of myself and just learning so many new things that I can do at the age of 76. 5 years ago, I was told I was pre-diabetic. I should change my lifestyle, change my diet, and learn how to work with being pre-diabetic. I obviously didn't do it right. It did not change things, and today, a year ago today, I was diagnosed as a diabetic. Type 2 diabetes is what I have, which to me means total 100% change in my lifestyle. My diet, my exercise, everything has to change when you are a type 2 diabetic. I have learned to manage my diabetes by, number one, you must get exercise in your daily regimen of taking care of yourself. I started by walking every day, and then I joined a health club. So I swim every day, usually 4 to 5 days out of a week. I do exercise in a pool, and I swim. I also learned that I can do this, and I feel so much better. But on top of that, you have to change the way you prepare your food. And you have to know the difference between the carbs, the sugar, and the foods that you can and cannot have. Right now, I have discovered there really isn't much on a diet you can't have, as long as you read what is in the food that you're eating and understand the labels on your grocery packages. And that is a true learning experience. I do take medication. I take 2 pills a day. I take an insulin shot every day. I fought taking insulin. We tried several other of the medications. My body would not accept them. I really had to give in to the idea of giving myself an injection every day, which frightened me, thinking, how am I going to know the amount of insulin I should be taking? Well, today there are so many new things. The idea of taking an insulin shot today is very easy to understand. But I am now on a regimen of insulin for a month, and my numbers have finally dropped into what we call a controlled diabetic number. And it has helped. I test my blood sugars twice a day. You will pay more attention to how your body is talking to you. There will be some signals when your sugar is dropping too low. You'll also get signals when your sugar is high. Learning to drink water is so important when you are diabetic. I find that it's very important to pay attention to what your body is saying to you when you're learning how to deal with being a diabetic. A year ago when I was diagnosed, I was connected to a diabetic program through Mary Washington, and I have a virtual meeting approximately once every 5 weeks, and I have learned that changing my food, how I prepare the food, and learning how to eat the proper foods has been explained so clearly that making the changes have finally started to work for me. But it was not overnight. It's a year. I have learned in 1 year to finally make the changes and understand why I'm making the changes. My support group at this time is what has gotten me through being a diabetic. My family has helped me tremendously to understand that I can only make the changes. I can only do this for myself. They can give me the encouragement, but I've got to be willing to make the changes. The medical group that I have the support from through Mary Washington has been tremendous. If you tell them you don't understand something, there are people who will take the time and help you to understand what you are changing and why you have to make these changes. Being a diabetic is nothing to be ashamed of, and I was very much, because I felt I failed myself and my family. I know now our bodies change and things go on in our bodies that we don't really have control over. But if we're aware of them, we can kind of fix them, or at least tweak them in a way that they won't mean that we will be a prisoner to being a diabetic. And at this point, that's very important.
Cindy, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm so proud that you made these lifestyle changes and encouraging others to do the same. I just want to mention, through our diabetes program, we not only see people through classes, but you can also be seen individually if you choose to do so. So that's great that we were able to share those tips with you to help manage and make those healthy lifestyle changes. Next, I would like to introduce Ashley, who had a diagnosis of gestational diabetes during her recent pregnancy. She and her baby, Evan Jr., are doing great. Please note that Ashley's video is a little blurry towards the end. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ashley Outlaw, and I'm a teacher at Westridge Elementary. I just became a new mom a little over a month ago. I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes when I completed the 36-week glucose test. I was nervous and scared when I found out because I did not know what it meant for my baby. So I began testing myself 4 times a day. I did a fasting one when I woke up in the morning, and then I would do an hour after breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I watched my diet, and I met with a specialist almost weekly. I would also take walks multiple times a day. During this process, it has helped me gain a deeper understanding of how carbs affect the body and how it affected me. My biggest support system was number 1, my husband. He knows my deathly fear of needles, so he made sure to prepare my tester so that I wouldn't see the needle and test myself. And he would also help make sure that my diet was what I needed it to be. My mom, even though she lives up in Pennsylvania, she would check in with me almost weekly to make sure that I was doing what I needed to do and seeing that everything was okay. And also the specialist that I met with, she helped give me tips and gave me pamphlets to help understand different foods and how they affected my body. My biggest thing to tell anybody who would be diagnosed with this is just don't panic. It is okay, and there's multiple things you can do to get around it. Just help monitor yourself and what you eat, and look for those patterns if you start seeing different things while you're eating. That would be my best advice for someone who is diagnosed with gestational diabetes.
Thanks, Ashley, for sharing your story and talking about the importance of monitoring your blood sugar and using this to help with your carbohydrate amounts and choices throughout the day. We have one last speaker for you, and that will be Rhonda, a registered nurse at Maternal Fetal Medicine, who was just diagnosed with type 1 diabetes this year. Thanks, Rhonda.
Hi, my name is Rhonda. I'm a mom of 2 kids. I have one daughter that is grown. She's left the house. She's doing great. and I have a boy that's 11. He's still home with me. I've been a nurse for 26 years. I currently work in a high-risk pregnancy office. I love all sorts of animals. This is Miss Elsa here with me. I like to work out. I like to run. I love to work in the yard. I volunteer in my church, teaching little ones in the kids' church, and that is a joy for me too. And I have type 1 diabetes. The way I found out about my diabetes was in February of this year. And I will add that I actually do some diabetes teaching at my job. It's not the main thing I do, but it's part of what I do. And even doing that and being a nurse for so long, over half my life, I did not recognize all the signs, all the classic signs I had of diabetes or of high blood sugar. So I remember having this weird, like, rash on my tongue. It's a rash is not a good word, but it's like a white, patchy, swirly, raised rash on my tongue. And then I was crazy thirsty all the time. I was just drinking tons of water. And then I was going to the bathroom all the time, like a ridiculous amount of time. So in my head, I just rationalized it and said, well, whatever is going on in my mouth is giving me cotton mouth. And then that's making me drink a ton of water. And the drinking the ton of water is making me go to the bathroom all the time. So I was just justifying these symptoms. But also, I started losing weight without trying to lose weight. I lost 11 pounds in a month. So I knew something was going on with that. But I still didn't put it together that it was diabetes. The thing that really got my attention was my vision just went downhill so fast. I had been to the eye doctor, I think about 3 weeks prior, and had my annual checkup. And they told me, everything's fine, your eyes look great, here's your regular prescription for your contacts. We'll see you in a year. And then over that period, I think of about 3 weeks, my vision just declined so rapidly. I couldn't see street signs. I couldn't see in the grocery store, like the signs at the end of the aisles that tell you what items are in those aisles. I had to take my son with me to go shopping, grocery shopping, because I couldn't see. So I became very worried about my eyesight. I thought something's wrong with my vision. This is not right. I went back into my eye doctor and I said, something's wrong. Something's wrong with my vision. I can't see. She was great. She dilated my eyes and she said, you know, your eyes look okay, but I think it might be diabetes. So I thought, okay, all right. I started to think back over a few other health problems I'd had and all the symptoms I was having. And then I said, oh, this thing in my mouth, this is thrush. This is what I have. And it made sense. Okay, maybe I have pre-diabetes, I thought. So she said, get in with your primary care doctor right away. Okay, I'm going to do that. The next morning I'm at work. I'm going to call my primary care, right? But it's busy at work. I'm busy. I'm seeing patients. I'm running around. I finally get a break. And I thought, you know what? Why don't I just test my blood sugar? So I stopped, was standing at my desk in my office, and I tested my blood sugar, and it was 550. And never did I expect that. I don't know that I had an expectation in my head of what it would be, but I never expected that. I think I sat down in my chair very hard. And the first person that walked by the hallway by my office was actually our diabetes educator. And I called out to her, and then she turned and looked at me, and I just pushed the meter across the desk at her. And she came in and looked, and she said, whose is that? I said, it's mine. She said, test it again. So I did, and it was the same. And a lot of commotion ensued at the office, and off I go to the emergency room. I was in the hospital for 3 days with what they call the mild DKA. My A1C was 11.8. And everyone I was in contact with, as far as doctors and I think nurses, just assumed I was type 2 diabetic because of my age. but I had a very smart inpatient endocrinologist that, listened to my story and said, you know what, I'm going to test you for type 1. So she told me, she did a C-peptide test, and she told me, this is what to look for. If you see this result, it means type 1. If you see this result, it means type 2. So once I was discharged, I was watching for that result. And when I saw it, then I realized that I had type 1 diabetes. So I was kind of bummed because I knew what that meant. I knew type 1, I understood, complications, what it meant to manage it. And I'm sure I went through several days of just wrapping my head around it. And darn, that's not what I wanted, expected, hoped for. Who gets this at my age? But in the end, it is what it is. And you just make up your mind to tackle the beast and keep yourself healthy. So I started off doing long-acting insulin at night, doing short-acting insulin with a sliding scale with my meals. That worked okay. Pretty quickly, I got a Dexcom, which I still have. And that was a game changer for sure. Rather than just giving me a 1 point in the spectrum of my blood sugar, it gave me all of my blood sugars, the whole graph of what my blood sugar does 24/7. I met with a diabetes educator. She was amazing. I went in there with, what I thought was a decent amount of knowledge. But it's totally different when you yourself are the patient. So she really tailored my education to questions that I had, things I needed to know, the very specific things I wanted her to talk to me about. And she was amazing. Food-wise, my diet was pretty healthy anyway. I have a gluten allergy like a lot of type 1 diabetics have. I've known that for years. So I've never been able to just eat anything, but if I want something sweet or if I want, some candy, I have it. I just dose my insulin for it. And then soon after going to my second endocrinologist, I got a insulin pump, which is also amazing and talks to the Dexcom. I don't give myself any injections anymore. Almost never. Occasionally the pump site will, need to be replaced and I'll have to give myself an injection, but almost never test my blood sugar. I can't see myself going back. This is the best system for me. As far as exercise, initially I was really afraid because the first few times I got out and just took a bike ride with my son or played soccer with him in the front yard, my blood sugar tanked hard. And that made me nervous. It scared me. I didn't want to be with him and have a bad hypoglycemic event. But I think after a while you get comfortable with it and you come to the realization that, I'm going to have low blood sugars. If I exercise or I don't, I'm going to have some high blood sugars. Even if I control my disease really well, I'm going to have some highs, I'm going to have some lows. So my pump trainer, the Tandem person that trained me on my pump, she showed me how to do some different, activities, to set some different activities on my pump so that I could work out. I figured out how to preload carbs, bring my blood sugar up a little bit before I work out. And now I can do an hour workout. I can run. And most of the time it goes really well. Not every time, but most of the time. And, if it doesn't, I know what to do. I know how to correct it. Maybe I would work out and run in the morning and then my blood sugar starts dropping and I can eat lunch with no insulin. It's workable. It's doable. As far as my support system, the new endocrinology office is awesome. The whole office is awesome. They actually call you back when you call. They take time with you. They're interested in what you have to say. When they told me they were going to get a pump for me, it went down in a couple weeks. So they're great. My pump educator was great. The Tandem rep, I have a few friends that are type 1, and they've been awesome as far as like text me anytime, call me anytime. I'm not really in a support group like in person, but I did join a group on Facebook. That's also been a really big help to me. I learn a lot from people, that have had diabetes their whole lives or for years and years. And also, it lets me give support to other people, which I think is just as important, to say, hey, I know this is scary. You just got diagnosed, but you can do it. And we're here to help you. You'll figure it out, I promise. So the advice I have for anyone that's newly diagnosed is you can do it. It is scary. It's overwhelming. Life is different, but it's still good. There are lots of people out there that are willing to help you. If your doctor is not on the same page with you and you're not clicking, they're not meeting your needs, find somebody else. Do not waste your time. Take advantage of the diabetes educators. They're awesome. They're there to help you. Find some network. If you can find some friends, support group, that's really invaluable. And a supportive family. I thank God for my family. They've been super good to me too. And that's my story. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for attending today's Diabetes Forum. This evening's event has been recorded, so please share with friends and family who are unable to make today's presentation. Be sure to join us next month for our last forum of the year, which will be on November the 18th at 7 p.m. and where we'll be talking about diabetes medications. So please note, we have added in our chart our link to the Mary Washington Diabetes Management website, where you can access not only this forum, but previously recorded forums and podcasts. Some of the topics that were mentioned tonight in the pre-recorded videos, such as continuous glucose monitoring, nutrition, differences between type 1 and type 2 diabetes, you can actually access this from previous forums that have been recorded. So please take the chance to look at these forums and previous podcasts as well. Thank you again to all of our storytellers, and thank you everyone for taking the time to attend today's Diabetes Forum. Thank you.